Welcome to the Bryers Contracting General Orientation. Bryers Contracting began officially in 2016 and has quickly become known as a reputable contractor in the construction industry. Bryers Contracting is a supplier and installer of metal buildings and building exteriors, including cladding and paneling. Through our service alliance, we are able to perform all types of general contracting disciplines to offer our customers a single point turnkey solution. Through various partners, Bryers Contracting has completed small to medium-sized projects successfully, on time and on budget. We have maintained a steady growth in our operations and continue to build on our successes. In 2018, Bryers Contracting was recognized through the Alberta Construction Safety Association C-Corps program for small employers. Bryers Contracting believes that adhering to our core values will continue to make us successful in all of our operations. Safety. If a job cannot be done safely, it will not be done. Quality. Apart from safety, quality is the most important factor in our operations. This ensures that we deliver the best product for our clients to further enhance our reputation. Transparency. Transparent communication is the key to building trust and relationships. Integrity. We conduct business in a manner that earns the respect and admiration of those around us through fair and ethical dealings in all matters. And finally, results. We train employees in recognizing how teamwork, communication, ethical practices, safety and quality achieve desired results and sustainability. During today's orientation, we're going to look at employee responsibilities, worker rights and responsibilities, health and safety policy, substance abuse policy, harassment and violence policy, progressive discipline policy, the general rules, health and safety committees, safety meetings, hazard assessments, which includes job hazard assessment and the self-task observation pre-assessment or stop card process, training, inspections, hazard and incident reporting, Workplace Hazardous Materials Information System or WHMIS, personal protective equipment, emergency response, and safe work practices and procedures. Now, according to Alberta OH&S, the employer has certain responsibilities. Bryers Contracting has a responsibility to do everything we can to protect the health and safety of our worker, subcontractors, and visitors to our work locations. This means ensuring our workers have the skills and training needed to do their jobs in a healthy and safe manner, providing competent supervisors, preventing violence and harassment in the workplace, informing our workers of all health and safety hazards at the job site, setting up safe work practices and ensuring these practices are followed, providing safety equipment and training, proper labeling and storing of dangerous chemicals, investigating serious injuries and incidents, investigating potentially serious incidents, working with the Health and Safety Committee or representative, and meeting OH&S and Employment Standard Code requirements. Now, workers also have certain rights and responsibilities. All workers in Canada have three fundamental rights regardless of their occupation. The first is the right to know, otherwise known as the right to be informed about actual and potential dangers in the workplace. Second, the right to participate. The worker has the right to participate in the workplace health and safety activities of the Health and Safety Committee or as a worker in the Health and Safety Representative. And third, probably most importantly, is the right to refuse unsafe work. Unsafe work is work that involves imminent danger, which can be a danger that isn't normal for that type of work, or a danger under which a worker in that type of work would not normally do the work. Workers can refuse which they believe puts them in imminent danger, or puts another worker at the workplace in imminent danger. Workers who refuse unsafe work cannot be fired or disciplined as a result, and are still entitled to receive pay, but they may be assigned to do other work while the problem is being corrected. Workers also have responsibilities here at Bryers Contracting, such as taking reasonable care for the worker's own health and safety and for the health and safety of others while at work. Follow reasonable directions given by or on behalf of the employer on issues related to health and safety. Some examples include following safe work practices and procedures, participating in the safety meeting process, completing pre-use inspections on tools and equipment, conducting regular worksite inspections, and participating in hazard recognition and risk mitigations through the job hazard assessment and stop card process. Health and safety policy. Bryers Contracting understands that all workers have the right to a safe and healthy work environment. It is Bryers' policy to have a safe workplace and to protect our workers, the public, and the environment. To ensure this, we need everybody's participation. Management is responsible for providing a safe worksite and for establishing and maintaining adequate standards and maintenance of equipment to ensure that physical and health hazards are guarded against or eliminated, and for developing work procedures conducive to a safe and healthy workplace. All levels of supervision are responsible for ensuring that workers are properly instructed to do their work safely, for enforcing safe work practices and procedures and regulation, and for correcting all unsafe activities. All workers and subcontractors will be trained in this policy and are required to work safely, to know and follow rules, safe work practices, and procedures. Everyone is expected to correct or report unsafe conditions and to work cooperatively toward the prevention of incidents. Substance abuse policy. We expect and require that all workers assist in maintaining a work environment that is free from the impairment of alcohol and drugs. All employees are expected to perform their duties to meet company and industry expectations, and diminishing performance as a result of substance abuse is a safety and performance issue and will be dealt with as per Bryers Contracting Discipline Policy. Possession, use, sale of alcohol, or any illicit drug paraphernalia, or other mood-altering substances and prescription drug without the prescription being issued to that employee is strictly prohibited. Based on reasonable causes, Bryers Contracting reserves the right to conduct lawful searches for alcohol, drugs, drug paraphernalia, or other mood-altering substances on Bryers Contracting premises and work sites. Bryers Contracting reserves the right to perform pre-access, reasonable suspicion, and post-incident testing to meet contractual obligations. When substance abuse testing is required, Bryers Contracting will follow the current COA Canadian model as a guideline. Harassment and violence policy. It is Bryers Contracting policy to recognize the dignity and worth of every person and to provide for equal rights and opportunities without discrimination. Bryers Contracting is committed to building and preserving a safe, productive, and healthy work environment for its employees based on mutual respect. In pursuit of this goal, the company does not condone and will not tolerate acts of harassment or violence towards or by any employee, contractor, subcontractor, or management. In accordance with workplace rights set out by Alberta Human Rights Commission under the Human Rights Act, every employee has the right to freedom from harassment or violence in the workplace by the employer or agent of the employer, or by another employee because of race, ancestry, place of origin, color, ethnic origin, citizenship, creed, age, record of offenses for which a pardon has been granted and not revoked, marital status, or disability. Second, sexual solicitation or advances made by a person in a position to confer, grant or deny a benefit or advancement to the person where the person making the solicitation or advance knows or ought to reasonably know that it is unwelcome. And third, reprisal or threat of reprisal for the rejection of sexual solicitation or advance where the reprisal is made or threatened by a person in a position to confer, grant, or deny a benefit or advancement to the person. All persons representing Bryers Contracting are personally accountable and responsible for enforcing this policy and must make every effort to prevent discrimination, harassing, or violent behavior, and to intervene if they observe a problem or if a problem is reported to them. The harassment and violence policy is not intended to discourage a worker from exercising the worker's rights pursuant to any other law. Any worker that feels they may be a victim of harassing or violent behavior must obtain immediate assistance when violence or harassment occurs. Harassment is offensive, insulting, intimidating, and hurtful, and does include unacceptable behavior related to violence or bullying. It creates an uncomfortable work environment and has no place in the employee relationships. Personal harassment is any unsolicited, unwelcome, disrespectful, or offensive behavior that an underlying sexual, bigoted, ethnic, or racial connotation. Racial and ethnic harassment. It is defined as any conduct or comment which causes humiliation to an employee because of their racial or ethnic background, their color, place of birth, citizenship, or ancestry. And finally, workplace violence or bullying. Bullying is an act of repeated health-harming mistreatment, verbal abuse, or conduct which is threatening, humiliating, or sabotage that interferes with work, or some combination of the three in order to intentionally hurt another person, either physically or mentally. More information regarding the process for reporting harassment or bullying behavior can be found on the Bryers training portal. Progressive discipline policy. Any person who does not follow the safety policies, procedures, or work practice which have been developed by Bryers Contracting that are applicable to government regulatory authorities and client site requirements shall be disciplined as follows. On the first offense, the immediate supervisor will verbally caution the individual regarding the unacceptable action and have it corrected accordingly. The incident is to be recorded on the notice of noncompliance, and a copy will be provided to the employee and human resources. On the second offense, repeated action of noncompliance will result in the manager, supervisor, issuing a written caution to the individual regarding the unacceptable action and the potential consequences. The incident is to be recorded on the notice of noncompliance, and a copy will be provided to the employee and human resources. And on the third offense, an individual who continues to persist in noncompliance or display disrespect towards any client, supervisor, or safety personnel will be subject to suspension without pay. Termination may be warranted under the circumstances according to the severity of the incident. It should be noted that blatant disregard for documented procedures or practices which seriously jeopardizes the safety of the individual or others will result in the immediate removal of that individual from the job site and/or termination of employment. General rules, or more commonly known as the rules to live by. The following are safety rules, if broken, will result in the immediate removal from the project and are grounds for immediate dismissal. Possession, use, or sale of illegal drugs, drug paraphernalia, alcohol, or other such mood-altering substances on site. Possession or transport of firearms to the site. Failure to use fall protection as per project and/or legislative requirements. Failure to follow and/or deviation on the confined space entry requirements. Failure to comply with the red flag or red tag procedures, lockout tagout. Unauthorized modifications to work platforms or scaffolds. Tampering with safety equipment or devices. Theft, vandalism, abuse, or misuse of equipment and/or property. Tampering with lockouts and/or tagouts. Unauthorized removal of hole covers or barricades. Falsification or withholding of information, records, statements, or reports. Violence, fighting, and intentional acts putting others at risk of serious injury. Being unfit from duty from alcohol, cannabis, or other mood-altering substance. Smoking in non-designated smoking areas. And leaving site without notifying the supervisor. Health and safety committees were mandated by the Alberta government in 2018. Projects that are scheduled to exceed 90 days are required to have worker representation in the form of either a health and safety representative or a committee comprised of the workforce. Between 4 and 19 workers on site requires the health and safety representative. 20 workers and over on site requires a creation of the health and safety committee. All worker representation must be elected by the workforce and serve a term of 1 year, dependent on the project duration. Regular wages will be paid and time scheduled during regular working hours to complete HSR or committee duties. Training on duties and expectations will be given to all worker representation. Some examples of duties include addressing or escalating worker concerns to management, conducting worksite inspections, participating with incident investigations, assisting with OH&S visitation to work sites. Safety meetings are held in different formats and are a great tool in allowing communications between Bryers contracting management and personnel. Employees are encouraged to express any health and safety related issues to management. When actions from safety meetings are identified, they must be prioritized, evaluated, and corrected. We have 4 different types of safety meetings. The first is a daily tailgate meeting. These are held at the beginning of each shift or day in order to review the scope of work and any associated hazards which may be encountered. Regular safety meeting. Our expectation is that regular safety meetings will be held monthly. Client contracts may dictate more frequent safety meetings. The safety stand down. Typically held immediately after a serious incident to review the facts and communicate any interim corrective measures being taken. And finally, the Health and Safety Committee meetings. These meetings are held at least once per quarter for projects that are scheduled to exceed 90 days and will employ 20 and over workers and subcontractors. Safety communications and bulletins will be distributed via the Bryers Contracting Training Portal outside of safety meetings. Hazard assessments. Bryers Contracting is committed to ensure that all tasks are assessed to identify known or potential hazards associated with the work. Pre-job hazard assessment, job hazard assessment, and self-task observation pre-assessment will be utilized to identify hazards associated with the tasks undertaken by Bryers Contracting employees to identify the hazards and controls necessary to perform the work safely. Managers, supervisors, health and safety committee members, and workers as applicable should be involved in the development of the hazard assessment and must be reviewed with all workers performing the task. So the pre-job hazard assessment must be conducted prior to the project startup. This assessment identifies all work activities on the project and associated hazards with that type of work. Next is our job hazard assessment. The purpose of the job hazard assessment is to identify the hazards or potential cause of accidents in each step of the operation and to develop solutions to eliminate or control these hazards. JHAs must be conducted for work involving critical tasks such as confined space entry, cutting into existing lines and tanks, work with gases present, working at heights, working around power lines, locked out systems, toxic or hazardous substances, excavations, and hoisting and rigging. The steps to conducting a job hazard assessment are as follows. First, define the job to be assessed. Next, break the job into individual steps. Then identify the hazards or potential accidents and rate the hazard using the Bryers Contracting Risk Matrix. Then develop a solution to eliminate or control the hazard at the source. Educate workers regarding the hazard through a review of the JHA during safety meetings or the daily tailgate. Determine if a hazard can be solved by training and the type of training required. Make sure to identify high-risk workers and tasks, and attach supporting practices or procedures as applicable. And finally, we have the self-task observation pre-assessment, or the stop card. This provides a process for the workers and supervisors to identify the hazards of daily tasks and how to control or eliminate them from the activity. It is designed to review the immediate task to be performed for potential health and safety hazards associated with the activity. This is a task hazard assessment, not a JHA. If the task is complex enough that it warrants a JHA and/or safe work practices or procedure, this would be the time to review all those documents with all workers involved. The process is as follows. The worker is to complete the stop process according to the task, location, and hazards. The supervisor reviews and signs the stop card to ensure all hazards and work scope is identified. Workers address any issues or concerns with the supervisor and they are addressed prior to work. The worker must acknowledge that they understand the tasks and controls in place. The STOP assessment is a field-level hazard assessment that is to be completed daily and must be updated during the day upon any changes to personnel, locations, or hazards. Prior to arriving on site, employees must possess a valid and current Construction Safety Training System Certificate, CSTS09 version, fall protection, and elevated work platform certificates. Internal training will be made available on the Bryers Contracting Training Portal depending on your scope of work. Copies of all training certificates will be uploaded to the Bryers Contracting Training Portal for tracking and monitoring of expirations. Supervisors will receive additional training on the Bryers Contracting Safety Management System in line with their responsibilities. We cannot talk about training without talking about competency. Competent in reference to a worker is defined in the OH&S regulations as being adequately qualified, suitably trained, and with sufficient experience to safely perform work without or with only a minimal degree of supervision. Our competency program at Bryers Contracting encompasses equipment and task specific. There are two competencies that need to be considered. First is physical competency. That means being physically able to do the job. Second, mental competency. You have to be mentally capable of handling pressures and stresses that may arise during the execution of the task. All Bryers Contracting work locations shall be inspected on a regular basis. Daily, the documented pre-use inspections of tools and equipment and an informal worksite inspection. Weekly, a formal worksite inspection. Monthly, facility inspection. Client requirements may increase the frequency of these inspections. Hazard and incident reporting. A hazard is defined as any source of potential damage, harm, or adverse health effects on something or someone. During your JHA or stop card review, hazards will be identified and appropriate control measures put in place to minimize the harm that hazard will present. Inform your supervisor of any uncontrolled hazard that may be at your work location that could impact other people or equipment. Complete hazard ID cards to correct hazards before they evolve into an accident or an incident. An incident is an undesired event that results in personal injury, illness, or death, or damage to property or to the environment, or that under slightly different circumstances could have resulted in personal injury, illness, or death, property damage, or loss. An incident includes a close call or a near miss. All incidents must be reported to your supervisor immediately, regardless of severity. Workplace Hazardous Material Information System, or WHMIS, is a system which provides crucial information to workers when working with hazardous chemicals or other materials. All workers are to be trained on the most current version of WHMIS through the company training portal. WHMIS consists of hazard identification and product classification, labeling, safety data sheets, and worker training and education. SDS material will be made available through the company training portal for all known hazardous chemicals that will be on Bryers Contracting work locations. Personal protective equipment. Approved and appropriate PPE suitable for the work performed and the nature of the hazard must be worn in order to reduce and/or eliminate the effects of the hazard. All employees and subcontractors are ultimately responsible for the proper selection, use, and maintenance of PPE for the tasks they are assigned. As with all PPE, following the manufacturer's instructions regarding use, care, and cleaning is important and will contribute to getting the full service life from the personal protective equipment. Consulting with safety data sheet provided by the supplier is the recommended method of determining the appropriate protection when working with WHMIS controlled products. PPE is considered to be the last line of defense. If it hits your safety glasses, it's gone too far. Bryers Contracting employees will be required to complete further training on PPE through the company training portal. The types of PPE that will be required at Bryers Contracting include hard hats, CSA or ANSI approved. Side impact will be required around machinery. Safety glasses with fixed side shields, CSA approved. Full-length pants and long-sleeve shirts are minimum clothing requirements. Gloves to be worn specific to task. Work boots, CSA approved green triangle with a minimum half-inch heel and 6 inches in height. A full body harness and shock absorbing lanyards must be worn when required for fall protection. Hearing protection when noise levels exceed 85 decibels. Double hearing protection required above 105 decibels. And high visibility striping. Emergency response. Emergencies can be work-related and non-work related, such as fires or other disasters. Bryers Contracting will ensure there is an emergency plan in place at all of our work sites. It is your responsibility to know where the muster location is at each work site and for initiating the emergency response plan when the situation calls for it. Workers will be trained on their roles within the emergency response plan, which could include administering first aid to an injured worker, assisting with the evacuation of the work location and completing the muster count, leading the workforce to shelter in place in the event of severe weather, and securing the scene of the incident, acting as incident commander until emergency services arrive. When an evacuation alarm or an order to evacuate the site is given, all workers stop what they are doing, shut down, and secure the equipment they are using. Proceed in an orderly fashion to the muster point and report to your respective foreman or supervisor. The foreman or supervisor will conduct a head count to ensure all crew is present and accounted for. After conducting the head count, the foreman or supervisor will report to their superintendent and await further instructions. The workers shall remain out of the emergency area until the all clear has been given. Severe weather can develop quickly, and supervisors must be aware of the weather conditions and be ready to act accordingly. Bryers Contracting lightning policy is based on the flashbang theory. For every 3 seconds between seeing the lightning and hearing the thunder, the lightning is estimated at approximately 1 kilometer away. When the flashbang is at 15 seconds, supervision will suspend all crane work and elevated work activities. When the flashbang count is at 9 seconds or less, all activities will be suspended and the site will be secured. All employees will report to the designated shelter area where a head count will be done. All work will remain suspended until the decision to return to work is reached by the Bryers Contracting senior representative on site. Suggested guideline to return to work only if 30-minute minimum has been reached after the last lightning bolt is observed. Safe work practices and procedures. Bryers Contracting maintains an extensive library of safe work practices and procedures. They have been made available through the Bryers Contracting training portal and are also available from your supervisor in hard copy on site. These practices and procedures have been developed in conjunction with industry standards and legislation. It is our expectation that during tailgate and safety meetings, these safe work practices and procedures will be discussed relevant to the task you are about to perform. Bryers Contracting will continue to ensure these practices and procedures meet legislated requirements through periodic review. All workers are expected to follow these practices and procedures and to ask for clarification when necessary. We would like you to be involved in this safety program. Participate in your pre-job meetings by speaking up. Report all incidents, near miss, and hazards as soon as possible. Protect your brothers and sisters working beside you along with the general public. We think your knowledge and experiences can improve the overall safety of our projects. There is no way we can ever be successful without your involvement. Never walk past an unsafe act, and always remember, you see it, you own it. In conclusion, you are not here to take any risks. We do not expect or tolerate risk-taking. We will not allow your employer to expect or tolerate risk-taking. Your safety contribution to our company will be greatly appreciated. Safety first and production will follow. Can we count on you? Welcome to Bryers Contracting.